Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we have another top 10 and I have a huge compilation of so many different top 10 videos in my playlist, Top 10. If you are interested, go check that playlist out. There's a ton of different videos for you that you might be interested in. So in today's video, we're going to be covering 10 interesting facts about Rancors. Let's begin. Rancors are among the most powerful beasts in the galaxy, but I bet there's a lot you might not know about them. Today, we're going to look at 10 lesser known facts about the Rancor and share some of their unique history. Number 10. They're related to Tauntauns. Rancors are actually part of the reptomammal family. As you might be able to guess from the name alone, that means that Rancors were somewhere between reptiles like the sentient Trandoshans that hunted Wookiees and mammals like, well, the Wookiees that the Trandoshans hunted. When we look at other members of the reptomammal family, there's no shortage of really awesome beasts from around the galaxy. Jedi Master Coleman Trebor of Sembia was a reptomammal, as he belonged to the Verk species. And Zam Wessel, the infamous assassin and bounty hunter, was a Claudite, which made her a reptomammal too. But one of the coolest members of this group of species are the Tauntauns of Hoth. It might seem strange that Rancors, the vicious carnivores famously exploited by underworld criminals, are related to noble steeds like the Tauntauns. But it's true, all of it. Number 9. There are at least 8 subspecies. The Rancor subspecies is itself divided into several other subspecies. Now, the exact history of the creature is a bit fuzzy, but thousands of years ago, even before the formation of the Galactic Republic, in the year 25,000 BBY, meaning 25,000 years before Episode 4 A New Hope, Rancors evolved on the Outer Rim. On their home world, it's most likely that the Rancors originated as a single species, but after human and alien interference, the creatures took on special traits. The divergence in physical characteristics became especially more pronounced when the Rancor were smuggled onto other worlds like Felucia, Lahan, or Karita, where scientists and breeders selected pups based on traits that they preferred. The jungle Rancor of Felucia and Teth, for example, developed bright blue skin, webbed talons, and sharp spikes all along its body. Rancor pygmies, on the other hand, were bred to be much smaller versions of the monstrous beasts. Number 8. They have the same homeworld as Darth Maul. Rancors first evolved on the Outer Rim world of Dathomir. That planet, far away from the gaze of Republic officials, was home to many dark side cults. 20 years before Anakin Skywalker was discovered on Tatooine, Maul was born to a member of the Night Sisters. In fact, he probably encountered Rancors fairly often on the planet, since they were used so often by the different cults populating the world. Number 7. The Witches of Dathomir domesticated them. This is Legends information. For thousands of years, the Rancors of Dathomir roamed the vast plains and stalked human prey whenever they got a chance. Although they seemed to prefer eating other types of animals, specifically a pig-like species that lived in herds on the planet, Rancors wouldn't pass up a Dathomirian or two whenever the mood was right. It wasn't until a wayward Jedi named Alia arrived on the planet and taught the natives how to use the Force that the power dynamic finally shifted. As more and more Dathomirians mastered Alia's magical techniques, they learned how to use the ancient force power of Animal Bond to calm the Rancor's predatory behavior. Over time, these force adepts became the Witches of Dathomir, and they lived alongside their domesticated Rancors, even riding them as steeds, much like Boba Fett. Number 6. Emperor Palpatine made special Sith Rancors. When we think of the Sith and their immense power, we often overlook their obsession with alchemy and mutations. Sure, the ancient order from Korriban developed some of the greatest force techniques in the galaxy, lighting, corpse reanimation, and transfrescence, but they also pioneered complex biological formulas to transform any creature into a more powerful, bloodthirsty version of its original species. The most famous Sith spawn were born on Yavin 4, brought into being by Nagasato's complex experimentations 5,000 years before Anakin Skywalker was even born. But Darth Sidious, during his resurrection, sired many creatures as well. And one of these, the Chrysalis Rancor, was a throwback to the ancient techniques that the first Sith had used. A massive, green-skinned monster, the Chrysalis Rancor was actually powerful enough to take on organic armored tanks and shred them to pieces. That effectively meant these Sith-spawned Rancor were more powerful than any rebel anti-armor weapon in existence. Number 5. Ancient Jedi rode Rancor dragons. On the hidden world of Titan that we saw in The Mandalorian Season 2, long before the creation of the Galactic Republic and over 25,000 years before the rise of the Galactic Empire, the first Jedi created a beast known as a Rancor dragon. With 2 giant wings over 5 meters in length, the first Jedi used these winged steeds to traverse the dangerous planet, which always seemed to sway between perfect weather and violent force storms. Eventually, when the dark side armies of the Rakata arrived, the Jedi would use their Rancor dragons in combat. Number 4. Prophets of the dark side cooked Rancor meat. The rule of 2, which Darth Bane created, didn't actually last all that long. For much longer, the Sith existed in great armies, fighting the Jedi with almost equal numbers in massive battles. In fact, Darth Bane's revolutionary idea was only put into effect 1,000 years before the rise of Darth Sidious. Considering the Lords of the Sith had existed for at least 6,000 years before that, and the native Sith species themselves had been using the Force for at least as long as the Rakata, Bane's legacy is only a small fragment of the history of the dark side. Even during the span when the rule of 2 was the law of the land, a particular Sith refused to follow its edicts. This was Darth Millennial, a Sith who preferred the Brotherhood of Darkness's earlier philosophy, rule of the strong. Unwilling to continue in the Baneite tradition, Darth Millennium created a new sect, the Prophets of the Dark Side. And this little cult ended up starting a few weird traditions, but it was their culinary habits that were particularly strange. Once around the time that Luke Skywalker was kidnapped by the Supreme Imperial Prophet, the Order ended up serving a feast to a Hutt dignitary. Of all the items in the galaxy they could have prepared, they decided to use Rancor liver as their entree. Now, this might have more to do with the diet of the Hutts than the actual culinary traditions of the Darkside prophets, but I'd be willing to argue the opposite. After all, the Sith's infamous alchemical experiments often involved using the organs of Darkside-sensitive creatures. Number 3. Some Rancors could talk. When we look at the Witches of Dathomir one more time, there's a particular clan that Luke, Han, and Leia would run into that had an interesting tale. Known as the Singing Mountain Clan, they owned one of the largest Rancors on Dathomir. But that's not the fascinating thing about her. Apparently, that Rancor named Tosh could actually talk. Sometime around the Battle of Dathomir, shortly before the wedding of Han Solo and Princess Leia, Tosh was killed in a battle against the Night Sisters of her home world. Number 2. Tyrant Rancors were the largest. Of all the subspecies of Rancors, Tyrant Rancors were by far the largest. While normal Rancors would usually grow to about 4 meters in height, the Tyrant Rancors dwarfed that, averaging 20 meters easily. To put that into context, the average length of a crate dragon is 45 meters, and we've all seen how absolutely massive those beasts are in comparison to an average human, or Mandalorian. Tyrant Rancors grow to just about half the size, which means that they're not as humongous, but they'd still dwarf any normal humanoid around them. And finally, number 1, there are zombie Rancors. During the Galactic Civil War, Dathomir became home to a number of unethical experiments conducted by the Empire. Palpatine, after all, liked to invest his resources into as many ongoing projects at once. On the world of Biss, he was busy perfecting his cloning chambers and his Sith spawn, and in the new canon, he hired a scientist named Dr. Silo to biogenetically enhance new apprentices to replace Darth Vader. You might remember from this comic that I covered a few years back, but one of his experiments went wrong. When a contagious toxin known as the Blackwing virus broke through contaminants, it turned every living being around it into a zombie, including a Rancor that lived beneath the laboratory. Which Rancor fact is your favorite, and if there's any that I left out, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to make a revised video one day, maybe with top 20 facts, or part 2 perhaps. Thanks for watching today's video. I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.